All right. There we go. I think we're live. Let people
We're
go ahead and
live.
start
There you go.
trickling in. What
Yeah.
is up, guys, here on a Wednesday night? We haven't done this in a while. This is fun.
I know. I know. This was fun. It was fun last time. It's gonna be fun tonight. I mean, we got a 10-1 football team. I mean, how could anything be worse right now? Seriously.
Can you imagine being a content creator or a fan or a media person covering like a losing football team right now? Like imagine if your job was, and I don't want to poo-poo guys, because obviously like your job's your job, but if you had to cover like the Texans right now, the Jaguars right now, we criticize, at least I do. I feel like Eagle fans in general are always harsh on the Eagles. Gannon in the defense is not that good, or why aren't they running the ball as much? But at least we have a winning football team,
Yeah. Well, if I was doing the Texans or something, every video would be like, we gotta lose, we gotta tank, we gotta get rid of this guy, we gotta get rid of that guy. That's how I would be, because once you're not really a contender, to me, there's nothing worse in football than being like in purgatory, where you're not bad enough to get a top franchise changing player,
Right?
but you're not good enough to compete for the Super Bowl. There's nothing worse than that. So to me, I'd rather either lose and try to draft somebody or win the whole thing.
If you were losing this year, I love the draft. And to me, I think the NFL draft is the greatest non-on-field sporting event in the entire world because it's just so exciting. If let's just say you had the first overall draft pick, Philly 500, the first overall draft pick, and maybe it's not for the Eagles. Who would you take if you were just going best player in this upcoming draft?
It's hard to say because I haven't studied these guys enough to tell you right now. I haven't done enough studying. But obviously, if you get a chance to get a franchise quarterback and there's a franchise quarterback there, you have to go that route. Otherwise, I really like getting a pass rusher, a left tackle. I think those important positions, I would always take at the top of the draft. But I haven't studied enough to tell you who's that guy is going to be at this point. To me, it's just so far off. I don't even really. It's really hard to know because all the way up through the combine, the draft board changes so much. It does. So hard to know. I really like Will Anderson Jr. Like I really want him. I'm hoping the Saints lose so we could get a premier pass rusher. That would be nice.
That's part of the fun right now is rooting against the Saints and rooting for the Raiders and rooting for the Panthers and rooting for the Jaguars and all these teams to win. That way, man, top 5 draft pick would be absolutely insane for the Philadelphia Eagles.
And it could happen. I mean, Saints, they're not that good. I think they play the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football this week. So that should be a loss, hopefully,
They have these pesky games because Dalton's like not totally trash. And so every now and then Andy Dalton plays really well. And then Kamara plays pretty well. And their defense it's not that bad. So we'll see. A top 5 pick for me, as exciting as it is, and it would be like the greatest news story ever for, the month of February until the end of April, because we can talk about who they could possibly go get, how he's going to trade back. I'd be so shocked if Howie doesn't go, hey, you want number 5 overall? We'll take your first next year. We'll take number 15 overall. See ya. The odds of him staying put inside the top 5. When was the last time we had a top 5 pick? Was that the Lane Johnson draft? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I want to say Lane Johnson was probably the last top. We had a top 3 pick that year, I think.
Right.
I would say I think so. We had the 6th pick a few years ago, but we traded. Remember, and then we wind up trading back up and jumping the Giants for Devontae Smith.
Right.
I mean, listen, the dream is get the first pick overall and then trade it, right, and then get multiple draft picks again. Because somebody's going to want to come up. When you look at the draft board now, who has got the first pick right now? I just did a whole thing.
Texans have number 1.
So they're going to take a quarterback.
Right.
They're going to take a quarterback. And then the next pick, I think it was, who was it? Was it Pittsburgh? No, it wasn't Pittsburgh. I forget. Yeah, I forgot. But whoever it was, I don't think they want a quarterback.
There we go. We got it, right? Okay, yeah. So it's the Bears.
So they got Fields, right? So if you're the Bears, you're going to try to trade for somebody that wants to come up and maybe jump the Lions, who I think are 3.
Right.
So I assume the Lions are going to want a quarterback if given the opportunity. So you can get into 2 or 3. You got a shot there.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And there's always this argument of maybe they love Jared Goff, even though he doesn't win a lot of football games. At least their offense has been pretty good this year. So there's at least a chance. Seattle seemingly won't take a quarterback. Carolina will. Arizona won't, Green Bay won't, and the Raiders won't. It's like there's a lot of options if you get high enough, and these teams that do want quarterbacks are behind you. It could be a lot of fun.
Somebody's going to want to trade up. I still don't understand why Carolina is ahead of New Orleans though, because they met one time, I think, right? And Carolina beat them. So I don't understand.
Is it head to head or is it division record? Because maybe the Saints' division record's worse. I don't know.
I thought it was. I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was head to head first and then division record.
Yeah,
but it may be division record. That's probably what it is.
Carolina has, I forget who they have this weekend. I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, we'll see.
I haven't put my bets in yet. I do that tomorrow.
What's your bet of the week? What's your? I mean, well, let's first go and we'll talk about the Titans game a lot more. Philadelphia 5.5 point favorites. Is that a bet that you would go ahead and lock in?
I don't know. I think this is going to see. I think this is going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
I think that if the Eagles, if they could get, if they could go up, if they go up, let's say 13-0, like they did against Green Bay, I really wonder if Tennessee will stick with the run game. Because as long as they stick with their run game, I think they're in this game.
Right.
But I just don't think their offense can score enough points. So yeah, 5.5. 5.5 isn't bad. It's not bad at all. Yeah, I don't know. I have to see what the spreads are with some of these games. I think that Washington Giant game is fantastic. Like, that's such an interesting game. I wouldn't bet it because you don't know how those division games go.
Right.
But I haven't decided. I haven't seen what I'm going to do yet. I don't know. I haven't looked at the points.
I was reading up that Philadelphia, as Eagle fans, we should root for the Giants because the Commanders have that head-to-head win against us, even though it's 1-1. Even though technically the Giants have a better record because they have one less loss because they've had a bye and Washington hasn't. But that's a tough one to kind of decide who you would rather face in the postseason. Like, at this point, after watching what the Commanders were able to do to us, I would rather face the Giants. But I also trust the Giants coaching staff more. Like Dable scares me, and their D coordinator scares me a lot more than what the Commanders have. But the Commanders' defensive line played so well against us this last time. It's hard to kind of decide on who you want to root for in that game. And you got to pick somebody because someone's got to win.
Yeah. Well, we split with Washington, so we split with them. We have to play the Giants twice.
Right.
So they technically could beat us twice, which it's not going to happen. But I don't know. I really think when I look at the Washington game, I really feel like, man, the Eagles had to lose somewhere on this schedule. You had to lose somewhere on the schedule, and it makes a lot of sense that it would be a division rival, somebody who sees you twice a year. So it's not that surprising. I don't think Washington could do that to us again. However, I would rather play the Giants probably too.
Yeah. Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I think Tennessee in general is a very interesting matchup this weekend because the one main concern that we have, I think both of us would agree, is still the run defense. And I mean, maybe the defense in general. There were a couple of drives from Aaron Rodgers and the Packers this past week where it was like, okay, we're getting shredded a little bit more than we've seen in the past through the passing game. And that was kind of like the running game was an issue. They get Joseph and they get Sue. It was pretty much fixed against the Colts minus that first drive. Jonathan Taylor didn't go, buckshot on us. And then there was some moments with Aaron Jones, but not a lot. But it was Rodgers kind of carving us up in the middle of the football field. And so I really see this as the running game test again. Because if Henry goes for 150, then we're going to sit back and complain for a week saying, well, the Eagles' run defense isn't fixed. But if Henry goes for 90 on 25 carries, then I think maybe we sit back and go, okay, the run defense is fixed, and our one big flaw defensively is going to be just fine.
Yeah. I mean, Derrick Henry scares me, but I really am curious if your offense can move the ball and put points up, will they stick with the run game? Because I think if you can get Tennessee in a situation where they have to throw, it's over,
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a very interesting matchup because Tennessee runs the ball, and if I was Tennessee, I would have Derrick Henry get the ball 30 times. If I'm down 14-0, I'm not panicking. I'm going to keep running Derrick Henry.
Right.
I think that's what I would do. So I think it's a tough game. This is one of the games, probably one of the few games where I'm really like, if I always think the Eagles will go win and have a chance, but this was the one game where I think it could be really close.
Looks like he had 17 carries for 38 yards this past week. Another thing I looked at earlier today, they haven't given up more than 24 points since week 2. Like defensively, no one talks about the Titans defense. At least I haven't heard anything about the Titans defense. And yet, I mean, geez, 22, 17, 17, 10, 10, 20. And that was even the Chiefs. It was only 20. And then in a loss this past week, 20 to the Cincinnati Bengals. It's a really good test. And that's the thing is we talked about, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be a really, really good test for the Eagles. And then, a couple of weeks ago was supposed to be Dallas would be a really good test for the Eagles. They passed every single test minus Washington. And so at what point are the national media going to watch us pass this test and go, oh, okay, well, they passed this test. It's going to be just fine.
They won't. It won't happen. It doesn't even matter. Dallas wins one game versus Minnesota, and they're the best team in the conference now. We're not going to get any respect, and that's kind of how I like it. I kind of like it like that. No respect, and then just keep winning. The good thing is this game's in Philly. That to me is the big deal. It's a big factor.
We got a comment from Clifford saying, once we clinch the number 1 spot, do we rest starters? I think it's a 2-part question. The first question is going to be, when would you clinch the number 1 spot, right? Because they have a scenario I talked about on my show today where if they win and like 4 other things happen, then they clinch a playoff spot, but it's not the number 1 seed. I mean, maybe by the Bears game, could you have the ones? You probably got to beat the Cowboys to get the 1 seed, right?
Well, yeah. I was actually looking at this today and talked about this in one of my videos. If Dallas wins the next 3 games, right? Their next 3 games are the Colts, the Texans, and the Jaguars.
Right.
That's easy. They're going to win the next 3 games. If the Eagles win the next 3 games, let's say both teams are 3-0, that means that Christmas Eve game is going to clinch the division.
Okay.
That would actually clinch the division. Now, clinching the division is not a number 1 seed because Minnesota has only got 1 game. Right, they've only got 1 more loss than us. So essentially, they're 1.5 games. So we would have to keep winning right now up until the last week of probably the second to last week of the season because we have that tiebreaker. So we need Minnesota to lose a few games. That would help us a lot if the Jets won this week. That may be an interesting game.
That's right. That's a 1:00 game. It looks like, and Minnesota's only a 3-point favorite. So, and that's like the whole Mike White good or is Mike White bad? Let's say Dallas slips up and Philadelphia were to clinch not only the division but the 1 seed versus the Cowboy game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm sitting starters against the Saints because of the draft pick, and it might sound dumb for this year. I mean, that's like a guaranteed loss for the Saints that you can give them that benefits your football team and also gets the draft pick even higher. I think this Giant game is the one. Probably for sure where they're going to see rest, and it's in Philadelphia, so you don't want to tell people not to buy tickets,
but you wonder Howie if Howie's like, look, I could get the first pick here, second pick overall. You play those guys, the call's coming in, it's coming in. But
I would do it. I would do it. It's such a weird time to be 10-1 because it's like 10-1, you're super good, and yet at the same time 10-1. Like literally, you lose this week, you lose next week. You're no longer the 1 seed, and Dallas is a game back. I mean, they're really basically half a game back because they could be, 3 losses, and our 3 losses. It'd be very interesting to see how it's going to go.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of room for mistakes. I mean, Minnesota, they're a lot better than I thought they were. Going to be. I thought they'd have at least 2 or 3 more losses. So that would be nice if we could get some breathing room from them. But right now, this looks like. You're talking about the second to last. That New Orleans game may be the game that clinches home field throughout the playoffs for us.
I've seen a couple of comments on previous shows of mine this past week saying that the onesies not a big deal. It's not that important. Like, who really cares? I completely disagree. Man. I feel like that is the key to Philadelphia going to the Super Bowl this year. If you have to go on the road. I mean, like, if you had to go to Minnesota, if you have to go to, heaven forbid, San Francisco right now, like, make the 49ers come across the United States, play you in cold weather, and force Jimmy Garoppolo to beat you. I would do anything possible to get the 1 seed. Anything.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that the Eagles go to the Super Bowl without the 1 seed. I think you need that bye week. I think you need home field. Home field when it's cold in Philly in January is such a big advantage. And when you talk about the 49ers, if there's one team in the NFC that worries me a little bit, it would be them. Because they playoff tested, So I think you have to – I think home field is essential.
You mentioned the Vikings being better than you thought. How do you view the Vikings? Because I would definitely put Philadelphia as the best team in the NFC, right? And we're both biased, but come on, what are you? I mean, I think unbiasedly they are. I would say the Dallas Cowboys are too right now, and I do have a fear of Dallas. I think Dallas is very good. I don't think that they're better than the Eagles head to head, but yeah, a healthy OBJ gets added, which we'll talk about. That could go ahead and do something. I put the Niners at 3, and then I put the Vikings at 4, mainly because I don't think the Vikings defense is that good. I think the Minnesota Vikings defense has shown at times that they are going to give up a lot of points. They should have lost to the Patriots on Thanksgiving night. Like, that was a touchdown when whoever the tight end was brought it across the pylon, and then it moved a little bit. They gave up 33 to the Buffalo Bills, or 32 to the Buffalo Bills, 26 to the Cardinals. They've given up points there. I think it's Dallas and then the 49ers that I'm really afraid of. If Minnesota comes to the link in the divisional round, it's just going to be the craziest crowd ever, because I feel like we have that little, rivalry based on 2017 where they hate us, we hate them, and our fans would go absolutely, buck wild in that game.
Yeah, well, I don't have any fear of Kirk Cousins in a big playoff game. I just don't. He stinks. But I kind of probably would agree. I might put the 49ers 2 over Dallas, just because it really pisses Cowboy fans off. But I also think that Dallas has an issue, that Cowboy fans don't like to talk about. That this is a team that you have Dak Prescott going in his 7th year. He's in his 7th year. He's got 1 playoff win. They don't win big games. They usually collapse this time of year. So I expect that to happen again. But I would say this, in a let's say in an NFC championship game, I think if you play a division opponent who comes every year to your stadium, I do think those games can go either way. Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I think that Dallas is fascinating this year. And I think that can lead us into another conversation in a second about OBJ and the impact that he would make there. I just think the 49ers defense is really good. And that would be a great game to watch, to see what the Eagle offensive line can do against San Francisco. But, for as much as people rip on Kirk Cousins and rip on Dak Prescott for not winning games in the playoffs, that's all Jimmy G's done. I was reading an article yesterday talking about how, the Niners have to move off of Jimmy G after this year because they paid they drafted Trey Lance, give up all the draft capital. How many teams would be better with Jimmy Garoppolo? The Jets right now is the name that's thrown out there. They'd be, Mike White looked good this past week. Imagine what Mike White did this past week with the Jets the entire season. They have serious weapons on the outside. When they're healthy at running back, they're really, really good. And their defense is the reason they've won 7 games this year. I think that's a big fear, is that Garoppolo gets in the playoffs and goes, hey, I have nothing to lose because I'm getting traded or cut anyway. Let me just ball out that way. I get a massive contract from the Jets or whoever, and then he comes in and carves Philadelphia's defense up. It could happen.
Well, he's got the weapons. Brandon Ayuk is a hell of a player. Got Kittle. You got Deebo Samuel. Now you have Christian McCaffrey. They're a dangerous team. And then, of course, I like their pass rush. So I think they're definitely a dangerous team. They went into Green Bay and beat them in cold weather last year. They go into Dallas and beat Dallas in Dallas. They're battle tested. That's why I think that they would be the biggest threat out of anybody in the NFC.
That's a good point. Let's read some of these. I'm gonna read some comments here. Someone said the digital printouts. Hey, tell 500 check his Twitter. I got something dope for him, please. Well, there you go. I don't know what it is.
I will check.
Check the Twitter. Hopefully it's dope. Let's see. Tell us if 500 Cowboys choke season is here. What do you guys think? Is a trap game this year? Does Gannon adjust throughout the season? Let's just address the Gannon elephant in the room here, because it's really hard for me to do, because on one hand, I see what everybody else sees. I see these drives and these moments and these plays where people are wide open, or the tackling is bad, or they're playing soft coverage on 3rd down and 2, and I get frustrated as well. But there are also so many of these games where the defense looks really, really good, and I can't seem to decide where I'm at on this. I think Gannon's problem is he has his scheme, and his scheme works really well when they have a lead. And in these close games, sometimes it's like, I don't know if this is working, because he's trying to me, he's trying to force interceptions. He's trying to get pressure with 4, force you to throw interceptions. And when that happens, great. It's fantastic. But as soon as teams don't turn the football over, they score a couple of points and match us, I start to really wonder about this kind of soft shell coverage and wonder if Gannon is going to work out. Now, the problem with ripping Jonathan Gannon is that people in the National Football League don't rip this guy. Like, everything I've read is that GMs think he's great. Other players think he's great. I mean, front office people think he's great. The fact that he had a head coaching interview last year, the defense was terrible last year, and he's going to get more this year. Either I'm an idiot, or a lot of Eagle fans are idiots too because they don't like Gannon as well, or it's kind of a mixed bag right now. I really don't know.
Yeah. The Gannon thing is something that is very interesting to talk about because the Gannon people who love him, like they come full at you.
Yeah.
You can't say anything bad about him to those that are on his side. I say this. This is how I see Gannon. I think he's a good coach. I think he knows football. I don't think his DNA is built to play in Philly. Like I don't think he knows when to close out games. How many times were we up 14 points, big leads, and he just allows his defense to let these teams back in? There were 2 drives in that Green Bay game that really irked me, and this is why I'm a little bit down on Gannon. The drive where Aaron Rodgers is out on the field and he's hurt and he clearly can't throw. Right, he's dumping off. Every time he's grimacing in pain between every play in the huddle, he's bending down. Why did you not attack him? Go test him right there. Then when he comes out of the game and Love comes in, why not test him? He's a young quarterback right off the bench. Those 2 things are my issues with him. I just don't think he knows when to go for the kill. But when he has to adjust to be aggressive, it works great.
Yeah.
I don't know why he doesn't do it more, because he's got the personnel, and when they play aggressive and they do blitz, they're pretty successful.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. And that's the thing too. I mean, last year they had a serious problem at the opposite side in terms of cornerbacks. Like Nelson was not that great. He was a serviceable guy. He's played okay for the Texans, but very much a pivot away from Slay will throw against him. They don't have that problem right now. Bradbury might be the best corner in the league, at least playing at that point. He's playing unbelievably well. He's playing better than Slay, and Slay's playing great. Yeah. You could bring zero pressure and get these one-on-one matchups, especially when Avonte Maddox is in there. But that's not an excuse to not do it right now, at least a couple of times a game. Did they do an all-out blitz against the Green Bay Packers this past week? I don't think so. And like you mentioned,
I don't remember.
Rodgers is barely walking. He's just he's holding his chest. He's going like this. And test him once or twice. You don't think that Bradbury and Slay can play on an island for a couple of snaps? That would be my big thing in a postseason. You're up 6. You need to get a stop. It's 3rd down and 8. Send the house and just live or die by it at least once or twice. Because, I mean, Eagle fans complain about everything. But I think we'd all be a little appreciative, even if you got burned on the outside. If Bradbury gets burnt for a touchdown, you know what? Hey, they tried. Instead of this shell stuff where Rodgers just walks down the field and then finds Christian Watson on a one-on-one, in the end zone, or who it was Cobb one-on-one with whoever it was, the safety. And it was like, goodness gracious. That's my one big gripe. I think most Eagle fans would agree.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have a feeling he's going to make a better head coach than a coordinator. I do. But I grew up under watching Buddy Ryan and Jim Johnson, even Ray Rose. Like, I expect a certain aggressiveness to the defense, and it's just hard for me to watch it. It's just like I feel like it's Chinese water torture. I feel like I'm getting killed here. That's what it feels like over and over again the whole game. I think he's a good coach. I do. His scheme bothers me.
Yeah, it is strange. It's worked really well sometimes, and other times it's been ridiculous and doesn't work that well. I want to get into a topic that people are going to be talking about a lot, especially today, because they activated Jordan Davis in terms of his 21-day practice window, and the report says he's possibly able to play. Now, I didn't see anything, and I don't know if you saw anything different. For sure, he's going to play. Looks like he's going to go through walkthroughs tomorrow. They're going to test it out. Maybe we'll have more news. But the real question now is, do you need to play him this weekend? And for me, I know the doctors are always, way smarter than we are at this. They're actually, looking at his ankle, and if they clear him, then he's cleared. But if he's 85%, I have no need to play him this week. And I get it's Derrick Henry, and he would be great against Derrick Henry. But they got to make sure this guy's 100%, because Christian McCaffrey in the postseason, Dalvin Cook in the postseason, Pollard and Zeke in the postseason. That's when I want Jordan Davis healthy. I have no need to actually play him on Sunday unless it's like 100%, zero issues here. He's going to be fine. Cannot get hurt again.
Yeah, I think you got to play him at 100%, because the last thing is we need him to go in 85%, 80%, hurt himself again into the playoffs. So I need him full go. You know, I'm hoping he is. I have no idea, but I mean, I think that it's obvious how much he means to the run defense, though. If he's healthy and he can go and he's 100%, this is the perfect game for the play. You know.
It'd be nice. I mean, you talk about the one guy who would look big standing next to Derrick Henry. It's this guy. I just worry about a 300-pound man with an ankle injury, trying to move a little bit, and then the bodies are flying around, and then it gets tweaked again, and then he's out for more time. It's the same thing with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. It's like, hey, I know Zach Ertz played the next week in the playoffs with a lacerated kidney. I don't care. Like, literally, let him sit. Reed Blankenship's nothing special. I mean, people are trying to anoint him like he's the next great undrafted free agent finding. I think he's good. He played well. Great pick of Aaron Rodgers. But, let him ride and then wait till you have these guys 100%. There's no need to rush him back.
Yeah, they got to be 100%. I agree with that. I mean, you got to think about the playoffs and all that. So I agree with you.
Yeah. So someone just asked, when do we get Maddox back? I have no idea. I've not seen
Maddox. Maddox is eligible. He's eligible to come back after this game.
Okay.
He went out the 10. I think he went on IR I think it was a Houston game or just after. So I think he's eligible after this week, and then the following week, Goedert is eligible.
Yep.
So we slowly could be getting these guys back.
Yep. That I just hadn't heard any update on him, but that sounds correct in terms of going on IR. Yeah, I saw the Goedert thing today as well. He would be someone that I think you could bring back a little bit quicker in terms of being 85 or 90%. Yeah. And I just went this whole rant about needing to be 100%, but I think Goedert could come back at 85 or 90 because you can limit his snaps and he's not getting hit every single second in terms of what Jordan Davis is doing in the trenches up there. That's the thing too, is like the offense hasn't had Dallas Goedert in a couple of weeks and it's still looking pretty good minus maybe the Colts game. You put Goedert back in this offense, and then you have an A.J. Brown who's not throwing up and losing 7 pounds through the course of a week before a game. It's going to be pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Goddard's huge. Goedert was a huge loss.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Let's see some of these comments here. Let's see. Didn't help that most of Green Bay's drive started at the 40-yard line. Yeah, lison, special teams is a problem. It's not getting better.
That's the big problem on this team is special team. I don't know for the life of me why they did not address a returner, especially. I mean, Brandon Covey, he scares the hell out of me. I'm holding my breath every time he gets the ball. I was so happy that Boston Scott returned it to like the 27-yard line the other day. I was so happy about that. I was like, 27-yard line. Whoa. But special teams is the number one problem. I see a lot of people talking about Jonathan Gannon there. It is what it is. I think that, I saw somebody say something about, we're number one in this statistic, that statistic with him. All I can say is if he was more aggressive, we'd have even better statistics.
I agree.
That's what I think.
I think it's amazing that Devin Allen has not been called up, and it's not because I think he's great. It's because you would think that if there was one, if you were an undrafted guy and you had this one specialty, which is supposed to be speed, and you wanted to actually get on an active roster, this is the roster to do it. It's like, hey, prove to the coaches that you can be a really good kick returner. And apparently he hasn't done it. Unless the coaches are blind and he's doing it in practice and they just refuse to actually call him up. Devin Allen not getting on the field right now, to me, is a massive missed opportunity. And I bet you it's probably due to ball security. I bet you they've tried him. And I bet you he probably fumbles too much because that whole idea of not playing a lot of football and then running as fast as you can and then getting pounded by somebody at the 45-yard line, that's probably what's going on in practice. If I had to bet money on it, is that he can't hold on the ball and they can't trust him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about his career in college. I don't know if he ever even returned punts, but my guy, he's fast. I mean, I remember that preseason game where he caught that touchdown. I mean, he's fast,
We need these big returns so we don't have those 19-play, 85-yard drives. Well, I don't mind the 19-play, 85-yard drives, but it'd be nice to have like a 5-play, 40-yard drive. That'd be pretty good. What is this? We need the 49ers, Seahawks, Commanders to lose their games to clinch playoff. None of those teams are stopping us from making the playoffs, but it'll help. I agree with that. They need to get the ball to Sanders more. They've been feeding him well the past couple of weeks. It feels like we're finally getting to that point. I mean, the guy's going to be 1,000-yard back this year.
Yeah, well, I think the way that they used Miles Sanders this last game is how they should use him every week. Miles is one of those guys. I mean, there's not many guys in this league where you can give him a ball and he could take it to the house at any point in time. And guys like that need to have the ball more. But I really like the way they've used Miles the last few weeks. I would like to see him more involved in the passing game. I think he's got 15 receptions on the year. But I mean, Miles is making it hard for me to want to let him walk. Like, I'm trying to think, all right, how are we going to keep all these guys?
He does seem like he would be the odd man out in terms of signing people.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, he doesn't. If you really look at his college career and his pro career, I don't think he's got a lot of tread on the tires.
Yeah,
I think he's still got a good 5 years left.
I saw these numbers earlier. I mean, he has 900 yards rushing. He's top 5, which nobody's talking about. Look how many less carries he has, right? Like, Saquon has 224, and he has 92 more yards. Miles is at 177. Like, if you were to actually kind of, factor this out and give him the same amount of touches as Barkley or same amount of touches as Josh Jacobs, he's the rushing champ right now. Now, Josh had like 400 yards this past week, and so that's kind of why he's up here at 1,100. But he would have more yards than for sure Chubb and for sure Barkley if he had 30 more carries, which is what they have right now, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, even like last year where people said he had an off year, he still averaged 5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
His averages is always up. So, I mean, Miles has been fantastic. I would like to see them use him like they did last week.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I do think, like you mentioned, signing people, I mean, I love them, but you start going, would you rather have Miles Sanders or James Bradbury? And it's like, well, I'd rather have James Bradbury, right? Yeah. And that's the whole problem. You go through this list, and now maybe one of the older pass rushers, you don't, BG walks, or, Fletcher Cox, of course, is not going to come back. Maybe you free money up there. But if you start going to Miles versus him, it's like, I could just draft a running back and pay him nothing and be okay.
Yeah, what they need to do is how he needs to work his magic, Like you got to figure Hurts is getting an extension this year. They're not going to wait and let him go into a final year contract. So they need to structure it in a way that it doesn't really kick in for another year, and that's what they need to do. They find a way where they give him an upfront signing bonus that doesn't go against the cap. It doesn't really kick in till 2024.
Right.
And then maybe you bring Bradbury back for a year or something like that. I would like to see Bradbury come back and then take one of those 2 first-round picks and draft a corner and let the corner just sit behind Slay and Bradbury. I think that would be ideal.
I totally agree. And when you go through the list of free agent names, I mean, it's an absolutely massive list. I mean, I just pulled this up on the screen. I was looking at this the other day. Obviously, Cox is not coming back. I mean, there's no way that they re-sign Fletcher Cox unless he takes some sort of massive pay cut. But I think he tries to get one last contract for 2 or 3 years somewhere else. I think you got to bring Hargrave back. I think he's your best D tackle at the moment, and him with Jordan Davis is a good pairing. We want Bradbury back. Sayamalu, probably not, depending on what they want to do at center. But if Kelsey leaves, then you kind of lose out on the center spot there. And Dillard played center this past week, guard this past week. Which I'd never seen before. So maybe that's a spot for him. I don't know. Dillard probably walks, though, because he's undrafted free agent, wants to go somewhere else. I think you got to probably do either White or Edwards. I'd pick Edwards.
One of the two. I agree.
Right? Scott's gone. Pascal's gone. We just talked about Sanders. Toth doesn't matter. Shashray doesn't matter. Minshew doesn't matter. Epps is going to be a decision, but I think you probably keep him for cheap unless you want to draft somebody. Quinn's gone.
Get rid of his Epps.
You do? You're not an Epps guy?
Marsha Epps is what I call
him. He's definitely, if you could get him super cheap, I'd keep him. Yeah. But I would draft somebody.
If he was a backup safety, I would think he'd be great.
Okay.
I just don't think I don't think he's a starter,
Yeah, I agree. Quinn has been the worst trade maybe ever for Howie Roseman. The guy is completely non-existent.
That really surprised me a lot.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
You would think that going from 18.5 sacks last year, he wasn't going to get that. We know that. But, 7 this year? 8 this year? Yeah. He doesn't have one as an Eagle. I mean, he's done nothing. And if he has one, it's like a half sack that he barely got because he was holding the ball. Joseph is gone. Sue is obviously gone. They're for sure going to re-sign C.J. Gardner.
He has to be your number one.
For sure.
Because of his age. He has to be the number one guy that you sign first, to me.
I agree. 100%. Let's see some of these questions. Do you think, what does this say? Do you guys think they're saving Sermon for later this year? They're not saving him. They're just not using him.
I don't understand it. I liked what I saw in 2 carries, but I mean, I think and I believe that they still need a bigger back. Mm-hmm. And I really, listen, I don't mind that Jalen Hurts runs. But when you keep putting him in those 3rd and 1s and every time it's a quarterback sneak, you're just risking that somebody's going to fall on his knee or something like that. And you do that because you don't have a short yardage back.
Right.
So that bothers me. And I was hoping Sermon would get a chance to play. But
I was there at the Jag game, so maybe it's just because I was there that they decided to use him. They haven't used him since because he got those 2 carries, and I went, "Who is that?" And then I realized it's Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to sit here as somebody who has never been in the locker room, who is not at practice every day, who's not getting to watch Trey Sermon in practice and go, "Oh, well, they 100% should use him. He's so good," because he did get cut and he's not playing right now. But you would have to figure he's doing something to not get on the field. He's doing something to the point that Boston Scott is getting carries on 3rd down and 3 instead of Trey Sermon. Because we like Boston Scott. We appreciate him. I like Gainwell. We appreciate him. But they sometimes get these short yardage carries on very important short yardage downs where you need a first down and you go, don't you think Trey Sermon's a little thicker, a little bit more, run you over type of guy? And they don't use him. So either they don't want to use him, and that's their own decision, or there's something in practice that's telling them, you know what, we can't trust this guy. And excuse me, again, it could go back to the whole fumbling thing. Maybe they're fumbling a bunch in practice and they're like, it's just not worth trying it. But I agree, bleeding Kelly Green, it's very confusing. It's very confusing.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. But like you said, we don't know what's going on in that locker room.
Nakobe Dean not playing his BS. That's on Gannon. I don't know if it's, again,
I mean, I think Kaiser White and Edwards have played pretty high levels.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard for me to see how they could fit him in. I'm a little more patient with that. Like, I think you give him a year and let's see where he is. Because I think he plays more next year.
And that goes on the idea that White's a free agent. You could just let him walk and not have to pay him. And then 100%, just waltz him in there as a cheap starting outside linebacker. Jadis Young says, tell 500 good, said hi. Okay, there you go. Hello. Buddy? Got that one. Let's see here. We think the Saints pick will end up being top 10, top 5. Talked about that earlier, and we both think it can very easily be top 5. I mean, that's
I think
100%.
Top 10. I feel pretty sure about top 10. But
yeah, for sure about
top 5. We got a shot.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that one. Let's move over to talking about the free agents. And I know that all of us talked about this past week in terms of these guys to sign. And we can start here with Malcolm Jenkins. And I'm very curious your thoughts on this one, because this was thrown out there first as kind of like, hey, wait a second. No, he's a free agent. Why don't you sign him? And I went like, that's ridiculous. They're not going to sign him. And then he went on I forget what show it was, the John Clark show from NBC in Philadelphia. Yeah. And he basically said, like, yo, sign me. Like, I'm good to go. I can play right now. And then I went, whoa, maybe that could be an option. We love Jenkins. I love the guy. Yeah. And immediately Weddle's name is thrown in there from last year. Do you think it's like a realistic thing? Do you think Howie's actually thinking, hey, Malcolm, what if you came and played? We'll sign you week 16. You get one game in to get ready and then into the postseason.
No, I don't think it's realistic. It's like Sproles a few weeks ago, right? Saying that he could come back and do returns for a run. I mean, I love Malcolm Jenkins. I think it would be interesting. I just don't know how realistic it is, especially when you're older like that, to come in, get a hamstring or anything, then it's pretty much done. So I don't know. I don't think that they're going to go that route. It sounds nice though.
It does sound nice. It makes for a really good headline, too. I mean, the idea of getting him. I don't know how it works in terms of unretiring players, because we can bring up Rob Gronkowski as well, because that name was thrown out there. And that NFL rumors on Twitter, that Twitter handle, you never know if that guy is just, pulling stuff out of his butt or if he's being legit. But that name was thrown out there. Isn't it if you retire with a team? Because, like, Jenkins retired, right? Or did he retire? Or I guess just, whatever you call it in the NFL. Don't you then, if you come back, first have to go back to the team and then be released? I think that's how it works, right?
Yeah, I think if you're under contract. I don't know what terms of his contract were. To me, I thought his contract was up and he retired. But I don't know what he had left. But I always thought it was that too, because I remember back in the day where Barry Sanders retired, and then there was talk that he was going to come out and go somewhere else, but the Lions wouldn't trade his rights. So they obviously had control of it. So you might have to trade something for him to a New Orleans if he retired, while under contract.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. It was a 4-year, $32 million deal that went through 2023. So in that case, you would, right?
Yeah, I would think they would have to then work out something with New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm not positive, but I think so.
Yeah, that is one thing I'm not very... Have the Eagles ever had somebody come out of retirement for them? I'm trying to think. I don't think that they have.
Come on, retirement for them.
I'm trying to think.
No, I don't remember retirement. I remember guys at the edge of retirement, but
right.
not.
See, now Gronk is a free agent because Gronk was on a 1-year, $8 million deal with the Bucs.
I actually think that's more realistic.
You do?
Yeah, I thought that was more realistic than Malcolm Jenkins because Jenkins retired. Gronk, he retired too, but he's already come out of retirement once, right?
Yeah.
So, but
For me, it's
both of them are unlikely, though.
Yeah, it's unlikely. And if Brady was the quarterback of the Eagles, we would probably be talking about it more realistically. But the fact, what's his tie here? It's like has he played? He played with Sue, I guess. Like that's the one person on this roster that he's actually played with. And if you could go ahead and fix some things. Now, what I've liked about Steichen with Dallas Goedert being out is they focused more on throwing the football to the outside receivers. People don't. I don't think anyone's kind of put this together. Quez Watkins has come alive as soon as Dallas Goedert gets off the football field, right? And it feels like that's kind of been the replacement. I thought that they would go to Calcaterra or they go to Stolmore. They completely ignored that. They said, no, thank you. We do not trust these guys. And it's been a lot more of really Quez Watkins and Zach Pascal getting these reps. They don't seem to be missing him as much as we thought that they would. Like the offense is just fine regardless.
Yeah, no, Quez has been great ever since he fumbled that ball against Washington. He's been really good. I do think a lot of that has to do with Dallas Goedert, and we talked about many times. I know many people have talked about the fact that they really needed a number 2 tight end. Who was their number 2 tight end? They really didn't have one.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me at all. I actually thought when Goedert went out that we were going to see more Pascal. I thought they were going to utilize him more, but it's been Quez, and that's okay,
Yeah, and it's been fine. And Quez basically didn't get used the first half of the season. I mean, he literally was non-existent, and Pascal was hardly used until the Steeler game. And then it was like, oh yeah, Zach Pascal's on here. I remember we were excited about that free agent signing, and that was just so long ago that it was kind of forgotten. Yeah, no, I think they've done just fine. I think Steichen is for sure gone. I think he's going to be hired somewhere, and I think he should.
Gone. No, let me ask you one question. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Because the Eagles went out and signed it and hired an offensive coordinator to consult your defensive coordinator. Right. So to me, I'm wondering, like, do you take that as a sign that there's something they're worried about with Gannon, that they feel they need an offensive mind to come in and show him?
See, I thought about, because this is the Colts guy. This is the whatever Brady is. His last name Brady.
Yeah, Marcus Brady, I think, something like that.
I first thought that. But then after the Green Bay game, I didn't see any changes. Now, I'm not an expert, but to me, if I was coming in to consult Jonathan Gannon, and this is obviously an offensive coordinator, so he knows what he's talking about, you would think there would be some at least visible changes to the defense just every now and then. Now, the problem is I think our minds think, well, blitz more or, do this more or do that more. Maybe there were changes that we didn't see, but it was weird. The problem is I don't know if this is commonplace in the NFL. I can't think of another time where they brought an offensive guy in for the defensive side, but you also think, wouldn't that be a normal thing for NFL teams? Hey, look, we love your defense. Here's a guy that's going to come in. He's just going to tell you how he would attack your defense, and that would be great, right? Yeah. Like, that's my other thought there. Is this normal, and we just don't know that it's normal in the NFL?
I don't know. I mean, when they first signed the offensive coordinator, my first thought was, well, maybe they're getting him in place in case Steichen leaves next year.
Right.
And that's the plan. And then you find out he's working with the defense, and I'm thinking, wow, they went out and they signed Joseph and Sue in 1 week. Now they're bringing in a coordinator. Maybe they're a little concerned about Gannon in some way.
You would just think that they could go and talk to him. That's what blows my mind. Like every time that something bad happens, or like when the Eagle fans, when we see things throughout the Eagle history that really, got us upset. And I can think of many times, you just think of some play calling in the past and some, back when Chip Kelly was happening, it was like, why are we calling this sort of play stuff? Or early Doug Peterson, we do some weird things on third down that didn't necessarily work. And then they start to kind of figure things out. You would just think that somebody would have the guts to go to Gannon and say, hey man, look, I don't know if this is working. Like, I'm just not sure that we should play complete shell coverage on 3rd down and 1 and play 10 yards off the receivers to give them a wide open screen. But you got to figure that's probably happening, right? I mean, you're trying to win games to make millions of dollars. It's not like they're afraid to do so. And then you hear who wasn't it C.J. Gardner-Johnson this past week who raved about the Gannon defense? It was somebody on the defense that was like, this is the best defense I've ever been in. It's unlocked my potential. I love it. So again, I don't know what to think.
Well, I think when it comes to secondary and defensive backs, he's great. I think he does a fantastic job. To me, like I said, I think he's a smart coach. I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I just don't like this. I just don't think it's aggressive enough.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not what I'm used to, I guess.
You do kind of wonder, and actually Jim Schwartz is I think he's an assistant on the Titans. I think he's on that roster.
Yeah.
What would Jim Schwartz's defense look like with this current roster? Because there were a lot of times where Jim Schwartz made me want to rip my hair out, but he didn't have very good talent. So it's like, what do we do?
Yeah, but he'll play guys. He'll take Slay and Bradbury, and he'll keep them on the side instead of letting Slay follow everybody around, and then they play 15 yards off. That was the annoying thing with him. The thing that Schwartz did well was he seemed like, even though he didn't like to blitz a lot either, he seemed very good at generating pressure with the front four with that wide 9.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Carson says his play calling is terrible. A ton of the roster saves him. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's not a bad point. Let's see here. Fire Jonathan Gannon. Yeah, I know. We hear that every single week. They're not going to fire him. He's 10-1. Like, come on, it's not that big of a deal.
No, he's not going to get fired.
No. And again, if someone might hire him, there are going to be tons of head coach openings this offseason. There'll be the usual 6 or 7.
I think we're going to lose Steichen and him. I do, but I just wonder if Vic Fangio's in the wings waiting. I would like that.
Didn't he go to Eagles training camp? I think he did, right?
Yeah. He's a consultant for the Eagles right now.
Okay, him and Reich are both doing it then.
Yeah.
I mean, he would at least get a lot of people fired up. 100% fired up.
Yeah.
Here, this is interesting. Knox says, I think Panthers hire Gannon next year. That wouldn't be a bad hiring because then you get the coach and then you draft CJ Stroud and you pair them together. Right. Well, actually, in my mind, I read this as Steichen. I would rather have Steichen, honestly. If I'm picking between the two, how many defensive head coaches have been successful the past 5 years? Not a lot.
Yeah. No, you know who I heard Steichen linked to already is Arizona, because they look at Steichen and how they brought on Jalen Hurts, and they want to put him with Kyler Murray.
Right.
So that could be a place he ends up.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Super chat here. Appreciate your K's new sub, longtime member of Dingbat Nation. There you go.
Yes. There you go.
When did you start YouTube? I've always wanted to ask this. When was your first video?
Oh, my first video. I don't know.
What is your first video? Should we look?
Oh God, it's embarrassing. You sure you can look.
I'm very curious.
Horrible.
Let's see. Hang on. Because I've never looked at this.
That was
the very first
horrible.
one.
It's 2016. August 2016 I started.
Because you are the biggest in terms of subs Eagle content creator on YouTube, right? I don't think there's anyone who has more.
I don't
technically,
know, honestly.
I think technically you are number one, which is, again, super impressive. But I'm very curious to see where the very first one. I should be able to go all the way back, right? What is this?
Yeah.
I'm at recently uploaded, but I can't change it to not recently uploaded.
Doesn't have a way to filter to go in the back.
Normally it does. Popular.
Yeah. Looks like they took it.
I think they took it away.
Yeah. Usually you could go, last videos.
Jeez, that's okay. Well, maybe I'll take off the screen, but maybe I'll do a little bit of scrolling here and see. It's going to be a long way down there. It
was 2016.
Was it Eagles content? Was it like an Eagles video?
It was Eagles content.
Wow.
I started because I just wanted to bitch. I was stuck away from, other Eagle fans. I needed a vent. It was like YouTube was like, I looked at it like my psychiatrist. I'm going to go and so I called myself Philly 500 because I always used to complain that all our teams are always just 500, and I started, and it was the most uncomfortable thing for a while, like talking to yourself in a camera.
Yeah,
it was
weird.
It was really, but it slowly grew. I don't even know what video it was. I think the first 6 months I had 7 subscribers. Probably one was my mom, a couple friends, and then there was this one video that hit, and I don't even remember what it was.
You know what it was?
I don't remember.
I'm scrolling. I'm 2 years back right now. I'm going to find this because I've never looked it up. I'm very curious.
You can tell in the video that I'm very uncomfortable.
But then you started obviously to gain a following, and then was there a point where you realized, wait a second, like this is going to be a pretty fun thing to do, and something that people actually care about my opinion?
Yeah, I would say going into the 2017 season, I think the second year in, I had worked with some people and stuff like that. I might have broken 1,000 subscribers. I don't remember, but that run the Eagles went on to the Super Bowl was fun. That really was fun.
Do you remember the first time that you were recognized in public?
I've only been recognized one time.
No way.
Ever. Yeah.
No way.
Time. Yeah, seriously. And I was in my garage putting together a propane grill. And all of a sudden I hear this guy cursing out his mind. I'm looking in my garage, and it's this mailman who's replacing my mailman for the day.
Right.
And I just felt like, oh my God, this guy knows who I am. And I felt like, oh my God, he knows where I live. That was my first thought, shit, I have to move. But he was a really nice guy,
Yeah.
That was
You've only been recognized once.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I would never have guessed that because you have like 44,000 subs. I figured you like go to the grocery store because you live you're up in the Northeast.
Oh no, I'm in California.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how many Eagle fans are in California? I guess that makes more sense.
Yeah. I haven't been home. I'm from the Philly area, but I haven't been home, in a while. So
I bet at an Eagles game. An Eagles game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to one of these days. That's the plan. So it should be interesting.
Yeah. I'm 5 years back, so we're getting close. We're getting real close here. Very close to the bottom.
It's like I think August 2016.
We're definitely going to get there. I was actually, and I'm definitely not recognized hardly at all, but I was in Philadelphia for Eagles Jaguars, and a couple of people. There was a guy walking out of a Target, and I was walking with my buddy next to Target, and he goes, "Tom," he just yells it, "Thomas Mott," and then just points. And then just keeps walking. I was like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And he just keeps walking. I was like, "Hey, okay." And then like a month ago, because I live in Atlanta, and there's no Eagle fans in Atlanta. Yeah. I was walking out of Costco, and one of the cart guys at Costco was like, "Thomas Mott." And I used to be a radio host here in Atlanta, and so that's where I would get recognized as like, "Oh, I heard you, as the Falcons postgame show host." Right. And so I thought that it was that, and it wasn't. He said, "No, I'd be Eagles." And I was like, geez, you must be the only person in Atlanta that actually watches this show. And I happen to be shopping at Costco at the same time I am. I thought for sure that you'd be recognized a lot more. I thought for sure.
No, I mean, I haven't. And actually, it's probably something I don't even know how I'm going to act because I'm not used to it. So in some ways it's good. Some ways I guess it's bad.
Someone said I would recognize Thomas Mott on a heartbeat. His voice is iconic. Is it iconic or is it annoying? I don't know what the answer to that one is. Let's see here. He's Denzel Washington. Get it right, Thomas. That's
the problem. People, I look like Denzel Washington.
That's right. So that's very true. I'd recognize you if you came to LA Philly 500. All right, there you go. That says from Wendell. I did find it, by the way. We don't have to play it, but I did find it here.
You could play
6 years ago. 6 years ago.
It's brutal.
It's got 1.3 views on it, or 1.3K
crap.
views. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Last time I saw, I had like 3. 2 of them were my
See,
mom.
It's got more people. We'll see if it loads. It was probably so
That's
long
funny.
ago.
I just remember being very uncomfortable.
I'll see if it loads. There it is. Well, I guess it's there. You are.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at that good-looking guy.
Back in the day, that's good stuff. Now it's always fun to ask people that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what I was getting into with YouTube. In a lot of ways, I have to change my kind of perspective on it because it almost becomes like a business. I never intended any of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's definitely now a big thing because there's a lot of people who talk about the Eagles and the NFL on YouTube. Yeah. It's finding your niche and being and just being genuine. I think that's what you do really well. It's what Brunson does really well, and it's what Joey and Philly Mike do really, really well. It's just like people enjoy listening. And
I also think I got into it the right time because there wasn't that many. There was they had something called TTC where it's like this trash talking stuff, and they would fans would talk trash to each other. I just talked the Eagles. Yeah. So I think I got in at the right time too. I think that helped me a lot.
Let's see. Jeremiah said I was a part of Eagles group in ATL. You got to be more social, Thomas. I am social. I just don't run into Eagle fans in Atlanta. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Hot take, Tommy. We do have Eagle fans in Atlanta. Okay. Well, I mean, we're here. Thomas Mott Dingbat now. We're going through this very interesting. Mott, miss you on the other side. Let's see you on night, brother. Medication. Okay. Very appreciate that. Florida fan. Okay. SoCal. We got a huge Eagle following here. Need to visit. Derek Barnett video was funny. Is that one that you did back in the day? Derek Barnett. Are you a Derek Barnett hater?
That's my most disliked video ever.
Is it really?
I have more because when they drafted Derek Barnett, I went completely berserk.
Like you wanted him or didn't want him?
No, I didn't want him. I didn't want anything to do with him because I was reading all these scouts that were saying that the SEC at the time, they didn't really have any left tackles. He hadn't really been tested. And I was like, just stay away from this guy. And I got killed
because he was good his first year, right? Didn't he have like 7 sacks and of course the fumble recovery?
Broke Reggie White's record.
That's right. That's right.
Like that.
And since then, you've been totally right because he's been absolutely horrible.
Stinks. Yeah.
Boy, I would have loved to have been doing shows back during when this happened. Back in the day with the Bradford trade.
I called that. That may have been one of the first ones. I actually called that. I said, trade Bradford to the Vikings, right when the Vikings injury happened to Bridgewater. And they did it.
I remember I was in college trying to remember what I was doing that day. But it was like, oh my gosh, because it was so close to the season. That was so bizarre. It wasn't like, March.
A week away.
Yeah, it was like we're starting in a couple of days here, and we're going to roll with Carson, and then it turned out to be absolutely fun. I do want to ask you about Odell Beckham Jr. and the Dallas Cowboys, because I do think that that's another topic here.
Yeah.
Let's assume he goes there, and maybe by the time, because people can rewatch this, days after. Obviously, here on a Wednesday, he has not signed there. But every day, there's an ESPN article where Jerry Jones is basically begging and praying at the altar of Odell Beckham Jr., saying, please come and sign with us. And he hasn't yet. I think Thursday, he's with the Giants. Friday, he's with the Bills. And then Monday, he's with the Cowboys, is what I read today. So it's coming. Yeah. Does he make an actual difference? That's the question. Does he make an actual difference for Dallas? Are you more scared of the Cowboys with OBJ? Or is it kind of like not a big deal?
Not year one. If he signs a multi-year contract, they'll get more out of him year two. This guy's less than a year removed from an ACL. There's only one player I've ever seen play great after the following year after ACL, and that's Adrian Peterson. He's going to come in, and he's going to be 70% of himself. Yeah. Then he's got to get in shape. These guys come back from that injury, especially not even a year. I don't think it makes the impact the Cowboy fans are thinking. Now, next year, he'll be more effective. That's how I see it.
Yeah, you do kind of wonder, like, let's say they sign him this week, okay? So then they give him, or let's say they sign him on Monday next week. They sign him on Monday, and then he goes ahead and plays the following week. He'll hardly do anything. He'll get like 2 or 3 targets because you got to learn the whole playbook. Right. Maybe by the second week they start getting him more involved. But I'm with you. I just don't see it happening. And hasn't he had multiple of these injuries? I mean, he's been super banged up since leaving the Giants.
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, look at Gallup. If you watch Gallup play, he made some nice catches, but he don't have that burst. He don't have that acceleration. Look at Saquon Barkley this year. Look at Barkley last year. Coming back from that injury, it just seems like it takes a guy to get that burst back. And I think that's going to be the problem for Dallas.
Yeah, it does seem like Dallas has to, because they know that they need another receiver, and the fans are going to go nuts if they don't sign him. Yeah. But then it's a matter of, okay, well, is he actually going to do anything whenever he's there? Right. And I think from an Eagle fan perspective, the hope is that, one, he doesn't play as well. You don't wish that he's injured, but you hope that he's not himself. And 2, you hope that because he's not himself, Dak throws to him less. He then starts complaining about it. And then you have the internal turmoil during the wild card round of the playoffs where Odell's barking at Dak on the sideline because they're down by 10 or something like that. That would be the hope, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's kind of the overall goal there. Let's see here. Get some comments. Cowboys blew it by letting Amari Cooper go for pennies. That is true. That is 100% true. Oh my gosh. Yes.
What did they trade him for, a 5th round?
Yeah, it was nothing. Pick? It was nothing. Bradford was so bad. Yeah, we do forget those days. I went to Saints Eagles. First time I ever went to Philadelphia. My dad took me, and it was Bradford was the quarterback. And he threw a touchdown pass to Dorial Green Beckham, I think, was those offensive days where you were like, this is not good. Odell's washed. Let's just hope. Sammy Sleece was goated. Y'all tripping. I wonder what he's doing right now.
He's counting his money. Yeah. I've never seen a guy get so many big paychecks and not be worth it. It's unbelievable.
Hard to come back from 2 ACL tears. Yeah, I totally agree. OBJ should get another contract in Bitcoin. It's going to work out just as much. I saw something about that where he got his contract in Bitcoin back when Bitcoin was at like, I don't know, $40,000. And now it's down to 16. And so he lost. If he kept it all in Bitcoin, he lost millions and millions of dollars. But if he did, that's the question. Yeah, not very good.
Yeah.
OBJ finesse and a paycheck. This whole plane situation is definitely going to, I'm sure it's played a factor because there are the 2 sides, right? Because his agent said it was like an overzealous flight attendant, which I don't know. I've flown a lot. I've never really had that kind of a result of a flight attendant. I mean, flight attendants get upset like everybody else, but the idea that a flight attendant was like, "Hey, I'm in a bad mood, like we're kicking you off." It sounded like he was drunk and was getting a little unruly and didn't want to buckle up, which was probably what happened. And they said, "You got to go." And he said, "I'm OBJ." And the flight attendant said, "I don't care," and then threw him off the plane.
I definitely think there's something more to it with him. I definitely think there's something more to it. I mean, they ask him, "Hey, wake up and put your seatbelt on." What do you do? Most people will wake up, and go, "Oh, sorry," but
right on.
He kept falling back asleep. So yeah, it really makes you wonder.
Does make you wonder. We will see if he signs. And again, I go to the Bills. We won't have to worry about you at all. Maybe the Super Bowl. That'd be great. And it'd be fun to see Cowboy fans actually go, buck wild whenever they don't sign him.
I would love it.
It'd be good. Wait. All right, I want to let's do one more little topic, and we'll take some questions, and then we can just wrap it up the way everyone else. You don't want to take too much of your time here. Let's talk about the MVP, because I think this is real, and it kind of died a little bit the past couple of weeks. Like the Colts game, there was no discussion about Hurts being the MVP, although of course he did leave a game-winning drive. So it's like that's what MVPs do. But it's back this past week. He sets the franchise record for rushing, which is nuts that he's already passed Michael Vick. I mean, the fact that that's insane. But now it's this whole idea of him being the actual MVP. Again, it's really hard with all these logos behind us and all this stuff to say, oh, well, of course he's going to be the MVP. I mean, maybe just the Mahomes fatigue gets to people and they want to see somebody else get it besides Patrick Mahomes. I think that's a real argument. It's like, okay, we get it. Mahomes is really good, right? Okay, great. He's throwing a lot of touchdowns. He's winning a lot of games. But here's this new kid who's doing it very, very differently. And he's winning a ton of games right now. Like, I keep hearing these comparisons to Lamar Jackson, and they do it on ESPN all the time, and it gets so frustrating. I take him over Lamar right now, and I'm not a Lamar hater, but I'm not like a Lamar apologist.
Right.
Lamar can't throw, and that's Lamar's problem. Jalen's throwing ability is astronomically better to where it was last year. He's won more games than Mahomes, and he adds this really fun rushing ability where it doesn't feel like he's going to get hurt every time he runs.
Yeah, and I feel like with him too, when the game's on the line, he's not going to choke it away. Yeah. So I don't feel like he's going to have another bad playoff, performance this year. I think it's hard. I mean, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, what is he going to put up? Like 40-something, 50 touchdowns by the time this thing's all over? Everybody gets infatuated with those numbers. So I think probably Mahomes is in the lead, but I mean, Jalen Hurts is the next guy, and I would love to see him get it. But
it does seem like a two-horse race. I don't know who else is even in the running right now because Allen stunk the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's fallen off. Yeah.
And then, I mean, who else, right? There isn't a quarterback that's playing at the level of these two right now. It's very clearly both of them that are going to have it, running down towards the wire. And again, the fatigue with it being Mahomes is to me just enough to kind of calm everybody down and give it towards Hurts in the end. And I don't know. It's something about Jalen Hurts that to me, I have not seen an Eagles quarterback do in terms of the leadership and the ability, because I'm not saying McNabb was a bad leader. I don't know if he was a great leader. I don't know if like the team was ride or die for Donovan McNabb because they had Dawkins and they had Trotter and they had, Javon Kirst in 2003. They had all these really good guys, right?
Well, the truth of that comes when Owens, right? Because Owens was able to come in 1 year and split that whole locker room in half. That's a good point. So how good of a leader could he have been, if we're being honest,
Right. So then you go to, I mean, we'll skip the Cobb and the Bradford eras. Carson Wentz clearly, we can go to Vic. Vic was a leader, but very different from Jalen Hurts. Vic felt like he was really happy to be there as a starter his first year. It was like, man, I'm just pumped that I'm here. And he balled out and he did his thing. He was quiet, and that was great. And people loved him. Like a bunch of free agents signed because of him. But it feels different that he wasn't the overall leader of that football team.
Right. Yeah. And if you could take Michael Vick in Atlanta's talent and then put his maturity with Philly into that little guy, you might have one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play.
I agree. I agree. Someone just said Nick Foles was a leader. He wasn't when he was the actual starter back when he was with Chip Kelly, I would argue. I don't know who was the leader of that football team. But sure, during the Super Bowl run, he definitely was a leader, but he was more of like a calming presence, right? He was the calm guy who wasn't making mistakes, who had this kind of aura around him where it was like, for whatever reason, this guy's balling out right now, so we'll ride with him. But again, not necessarily a leader. And then, of course, we know Wentz wasn't. I mean, everybody rips him now.
Yeah.
Everybody clearly. I mean, the whole idea that Sproles said that he was mad when they were winning without him.
I know.
That clearly shows he wasn't a leader, and they eventually dumped him. So we haven't had this at all.
No, not. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. So, I mean, obviously we'll see, but at the same time, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all plays out because like a lot of the comments are saying right now, whenever you have someone throw a bunch of touchdown passes, people go absolutely nuts and they're very excited about it.
That's the problem I see with him getting the MVP.
Yeah.
You know, at most, I think he could get, maybe they could get like a dual MVP. I think McNair and Manning did it once.
That'd be fun.
That happened one time before with them. So maybe something like that. But I mean, I don't know how Hurts doesn't deserve it after making your team 10-1, you know. But then Mahomes, you know, the argument with Mahomes is, well, Tyreek Hill left, and look what numbers he's still putting up.
True.
So you know, I just think because of the style, it's going to hurt him.
Yeah. Jalen gets most improved offensive player of the year. Mahomes gets MVP because of passing and yards. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Okay, let's just go 5 minutes here. Any questions? If anyone wants to type out questions, we'll just answer questions and be good to go, and then we'll wrap it up. So whatever you guys have questions, ask them right now. We'll see what happens. Tyreek Hill deserves to be in the conversation too. No, he doesn't. You have to have an insane. You have to have a year unlike any other year to win as a wide receiver, and even then, your quarterback's still going to win as MVP.
Exactly.
Yeah. Geno Smith comeback player of the year, probably. We do forget that he exists, but he's lost way more games. But I guess he didn't really.
Or him or Barkley. I think Barkley's up there too.
Could this be a prediction, or could this be stupid to say? Do you think that they're not using Trey Sermon? They use for playoffs, or I don't know if it's stupid to say, but I just don't understand why they wouldn't just use him now. Like, you're not going to hide him. It's not like he's some sort of secret weapon.
Right.
Let's see here. Love you, Thomas. I appreciate that, but it's not a question. What's this say? Hurts needs a couple of huge passing days next few weeks to challenge Mahomes. Going to throw for 5,000 yards. Yeah, no stats. Yeah. We know.
Yeah,
you think Jordan Davis make a big difference Sunday? We talked about this a while ago. We both said don't rush him back. But if they does play Sunday, 15 snaps, 20?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is he going to get enough snaps?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things Jordan Davis has to work on is conditioning. Because if you see when he first came the first few weeks, he was tired after 2 plays. It got much better, but my question is, with a guy that big, how quick does that conditioning go? So is he going to be limited reps for a few weeks until he kind of gets his feet under him again?
Yeah,
that's what we don't know.
And you wonder what kind of conditioning he's been doing with a bum ankle. He's not running, obviously.
Right.
You know, what's he doing? Prediction. Let's just do we're going to do rapid fire on all these. Prediction versus Titans. I say low scoring. 24-20 Philly.
2017 Philly.
Okay. NFC East team is NFC team toughest opponent. You said 49ers. I
49ers.
Said Dallas and 49ers, but I think we could both say 49ers is totally fine. I totally agree.
Yeah.
You think we get the number 1 seed in the NFC? I do. I think we do.
Definitely.
I think we have to. I think
shout out Lions Den, but yes, definitely. I do.
Still a bit away. Name one player you want to sign. That's too far. I don't know the free agents. Unless you want internal guys, C.J. Gardner-Johnson and James Bradbury. Boom.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the free agency list yet.
Favorite current Eagle besides Hurts and why? That's tough.
Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I have his jersey.
I love Devontae Smith. I think Devontae Smith is. I think he's an absolute stud, and I think that people kind of, they kind of look down on him right now because maybe he doesn't have the yards. But he still leads the team in receptions.
Yeah,
I wish the Eagles would use him deeper sometimes. But I like Devontae Smith.
Yeah. I totally agree. I could see a playoff game where he goes absolutely wild because the team is so focused on A.J. Brown and Hurts, and it's like, oh yeah, he's really good. Causing a fumble. Well, he did throw up his brains out this past week. Lost 7 pounds and popped a blood vessel in his eye. So. I think there was the last 2 weeks that looked almost exactly the same. I just think he's trying to do too much, and somebody came from behind him and got him. Yeah. Yeah. Malcolm James come back for pennies on the dollar. Sounds like he would, but would Philly actually want him to come back? We talked about that. Probably not. Very surprised. Sanders back next year. We think so, but
I hope so.
A lot of free agents. A lot of free agent
running backs.
Sauce still defensive. Yeah, Sauce Gardner is.
Absolutely.
I don't know who else is for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Favorite current player is Dean. Really? He hasn't really played. He's not really like a current player. He's a current bench player. Jason Kelsey, favorite player. Yep, that's a good one. Sanders, 1,300 yards. He's at 900, and we have, 5-6 games left? How about 1,200? 1,500?
So 900. How many games they got left again?
5?
Here,
let's see. I have this.
I think he's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
300 yards in him.
For sure.
No, 400 yards.
So 1,200. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can only re-sign one, Bradbury or Gardner Johnson. You have to do Gardner Johnson because you said age, and you're right.
Yeah.
But I love me some James Bradbury.
I do too.
I
do too.
Yeah.
I would consider franchising him. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
good idea.
Like that's how bad I would want him back one more year.
Okay. All right. 1 or 2 more. AJ Dillon to Philly this offseason. There's your big back, but they're
not gonna do it.
No, it's not gonna happen. Okay, let's see. One more here. What are the top 3 needs in the draft next year? Do you think players that you really like going to Philly? I like Antonio Johnson. It's too early for the draft, but we can go needs. Pass rusher, 1.
Pass rusher is number one.
Number 1.
Important position.
The question then becomes 2, because if you're keeping Bradbury and Slay, do you need a corner? You could sit.
I still think you need a corner. Yeah, I still think you need a corner. I think it's either, I would say defensive end, defensive back, I'll say either one safety or a corner, one of those two, and then a right tackle.
A right tackle,
possibly a running back too. But Lane, we don't know how many years we have left with him too. So
that's a good point. Good point. Joseph says favorite player is Lane Johnson. No sacks this year.
Absolutely great.
He is great, but yeah, age is definitely a factor in terms of that. A lot of people say corner, DN, or safety. All right, there we go. Hey man, listen, I always appreciate it. It's always fun. We got to we got to do this more often. Hang out and talk some birds.
I'm going to get you on my channel as well. So
for sure. Yeah, let me know whenever you want to do that, and we'll see what happens on Sunday, man.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on.
All right, guys. Appreciate everyone watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.